Oh, so I guess, well, let's just get started. First of all, is there any question that you two have? Could be about assignment 3, or it could be about the final project, just like last time.
I think it's okay if we don't have spontaneous questions from here because it's a small group. But Cathie, you said you wanted to do some demo about the semaphore. Is that
right? So yeah, so I basically I have, well, I'm not done with semaphore yet, but I have hold on, let me just share my screen first. So I basically turned assignment 1, the third question of assignment 1, into a UI, into an app, like minimal app with a UI. And so what I've been trying to solve with this repo, other than just turning it into an app, is to first try to launch it into Harmony testnet as well. And second, trying to run the snarkjs in the front end. Because normally this, as you can see with the semaphore official UI as well, the back end and the front end, the snark is usually done in the back end. So they will hold a backend server to run the snark, and then they will hold another, they will do the all the other UI in the front end. So what I've been trying to do is I want to eliminate that to just kind of make our life easier, because not everyone is very good at I guess building front end and back end at the same time. So right, so if you look at the README of the repo, so this repo is already public. It's the link that I sent out, and so let me just so this was the README instruction for if you want to launch it locally. But if you want to launch it for testnet, since I already have it on deployed on Harmony testnet, I can just serve it. Right. So this is basically the UI. I mean, it's minimal. I'm not as much of a front end person, but it serves the purpose. So let me try to demonstrate a few different functionality. So first, let me disconnect all my MetaMask right. So if I disconnect my MetaMask from this website, actually it will prompt me to connect my wallet first. And when I do so, automatically the first thing they will ask, they will prompt MetaMask to connect. And so I have 2 Harmony testing account that I have, which I already got some ones from the faucet. So now if I connect, then it's going to prompt me for inputting whatever positions I want to spawn at. Another functionality that I have implemented also just recently, yesterday. So let's say if I wasn't on the Harmony testnet, but I was on the, say, Harmony mainnet, when I enter the website, so I have to reload it again. So what this is going to do is it's going to alert me that I am connected to the wrong network. So please change the network and then reload the page. All right. Thank you. You wasn't seeing the browser. Of course. Should have checked the chat earlier. So let me start again. Right. So let me just quickly do what I was saying. So disconnect all the wallets. If I reload it, it's going to ask me to connect. if I click on connect and choose one of my how many accounts. Okay, so right now it's saying that it's wrong network because if I click on MetaMask and I check which network I'm on, I'm actually on the mainnet, not the testnet. So what I have to do is I have to switch to the testnet. So this is all done by identifying the chain ID. So that's the main thing that it's checking. And then it's going to prompt me to enter my position. So this is the constraint is totally the same as assignment 1. So one numbers that could work, but I think it's actually occupied right now is 4040. So this is a live contract on testnet. So whatever I've tried here, if you try to connect to the same contract, it will have already been occupied. So let's try if I submit 40, it should tell me that it's already occupied. Let's, right. So it wouldn't even prompt me for the wallet because the transaction is directly reverted. It will tell me that this position is already occupied by another other player. But, and then let's see if I try to spawn at 4141, we know that this is against the rule of the assignment 1. So if I submit here, what the backend, the browser is doing is to generate the witness live, and it will tell you that 4141 is not a valid input to generate witness. So, however, I think 4242 is a valid input and not occupied. So if I prompt for 4242, it's going to ask me to sign off the transaction. So again, always check that this is a testnet. I think if it's not the testnet, it's not gonna let you confirm anyways. So let me confirm. And then it's going to tell me that my transaction has been sent. And then I've also waited for the transaction to be confirmed and return the transaction hash as well. So now if I try to spawn at 4242 again, it should be occupied. And since it's within the last 5 minutes, it should tell me that, right, other players have spawned at this position within the last 5 minutes. Well, not exactly other players, but this is the default message that is sent out for this era. So that's kind of a little demo. Of course, there's possible improvements that can be done to it. So first of all, now all the checking is of the correct wallet, the correct chain ID is done when you reload the browser, right? But the user could actually change the network during their browsing of this website. So another thing that you can do is actually to monitor that continuously. So that is one possible improvement. And then that's basically the immediate improvement you can have. So what I've been trying to do is to do the same thing for a semaphore. I haven't really get it to work yet. So when you try to run snarkjs in the front end, there's a lot of error that is going to be prompting to you. So one thing is basically to route all of your packages that npm is using, Webpack is using to the browserify version. And that takes basically just manually installing the packages one by one and then routing it in the Webpack config. So that's kind of the experience that I had. I mean, I can show you the semaphore one, but it's like nothing is connected really. So let me. right? So I've basically done some similar functionality, but then this is hosted on the local host, which I don't think I have a server. I have a hard hat there yet. So one reason why I haven't launched this onto the testnet yet is that I found that it's not easy to just, well, so it was easy to port my kind of minimal dark forest app into the testnet, but I encountered some difficulty when I was trying to do the same thing with semaphore. So I'm not sure if this is the correct error. So sometimes errors in Web3 doesn't exactly mean what they mean. But right now, the error that I'm getting to deploy the semaphore to Harmony testnet is that the contract size is too big. The semaphore.sol itself, after compiled, basically it's the server is returning that it exceeds the code size that it's going to allow. Let's see. But I can show you how it is right now. Let me reload. Okay. Right, so nothing really special I've done here yet. So I've just ported forked the exact same UI. And in the backend, you can see that I've already generated the local storage ID. I've checked the chain. I've checked the authorized account as well as connected to the contract. So yeah, so my semaphore UI repo is not public yet. I was planning to make it public after I've done the whole functionality. So yeah, basically that's it. I mean, it's not a very sophisticated thing or demo that I have here yet, but just some kind of basic functionality that you can refer to if you need to do anything in your final project. So that's it. Right. So any question about the demo, or if anyone, I mean, Lanzo just came in, so if you have question about the assignment 3, you can also ask.
I mean, if we have time, I would like, if you could like do like a quick survey over like the GitHub repo that you made public to just kind of show like the main
code, right?
the code, that would be really helpful.
Sure. Let me. So I think one thing that I learned, perhaps the most important, well, so this is created by using React, because again, I'm not really a front end savvy person. So I was just using React as a library to help me. And one thing that I think is perhaps the most important during the process was to really have a good configuration of the Webpack. So as I was mentioned, a lot of the packages need rerouting. And for it to work in the front end, no, hold back. So there's no definite list of what is needed for this to work, but typically this is at least the 4 browser-refined version that I found is needed for the app to run properly in the front end, including the browser-refined version for crypto. So this is the one single, I guess, most important thing that I would say for this repo. Even for the new app that I'm building, I basically just copied this config right over to make sure that it's going to work okay. The other thing is, let's say, I'm not quite sure what else. Right, well, let's talk about where to find different things, I guess. If anyone would like to actually look into details. So and try to deploy the semaphore UI, keep running into Node version compiler in. Right, so well, one thing that I'm not trying to do is I actually didn't try to deploy their official semaphore UI. So I think everyone got the contract to work, so the semaphore repo, but I actually found that perhaps the semaphore UI might not be the same version that they have been deployed to the that is in the 2.0.0 semaphore. So basically, I'm just trying to build it from scratch. I look at their repo and look at the dependencies, and I try to kind of replicate that in my own. So that's why I'm not trying to. Otherwise, you have to basically serve your semaphore UI exactly the way they mentioned it on the to a new framework. So I did have I can send out a little tutorial that I did refer to when I was building the dark forest one. So, but now that I'm more familiar, I'm basically doing it on my own for the semaphore UI. It's kind of basic. So, but I think if you kind of look at how custom my dark forest repo work, it will create, it will, I guess, help you to think of how the semaphore would work as well. So of course, there is a lot of more dependencies and more kind of functionalities that is going to the semaphore one. And that's why it takes longer to build. But the idea is, of course, you will have a bunch of function that checks whether you're connected to a wallet. So that goes into my app.js. Just checking whether the user has MetaMask, for instance. If we're doing Harmony later, we probably need to do the Harmony wallet SDK as well, but currently just MetaMask. And then checking to connect the wallet, and then also checking the correct network. So that's kind of one main functionalities. And then for the UI, it's actually really simple. As if they have if they don't have an account connected, then you display a connect wallet button, just like what I showed in the beginning. And then if you have a current wallet, but it's not connected to the right chain, then it will show you a warning. And then if everything is correct, then it will show them the position form, which is the form that is on the screen. And then if you go into the position form, then, well, it's just a form that updates the state X and Y, and then it gets submitted to a function, which is spawn position. And then if you go into spawn position, so there's 2 steps to spawning position. There is the generating the call data, which is where the snarkjs will actually go into. And then there's, of course, the part that you put it onto the contract. So the part that you put it in the contract is more or less similar for any contract. Once you connect it to the contract, you can just call the function inside. So of course, then there is a connect to the contract function, which is exactly the same as semaphore. So this is pretty standard step. You can just connect to the semaphore contract or the semaphore client contract using exactly the same step. And that is the step they use in the repo as well. And then perhaps the most important bits of this is the how to use snarkjs in front end. So one thing that I have done is I have copied one of the function that the package just simply doesn't work in front end into the script itself. So I think this is, let me comment, originally from the package FF JavaScript. So this whole function is originally from FF JavaScript. We really only needed this for one function for witness generating. So I've copied it down because the package simply doesn't work in the front end. There's too much dependency that will break the app. And then instead of generating the witness to a file, I basically just save the witness that is generated into a buffer. So that way it doesn't have to write or read from the local file server in order to proceed to next step. So the generating witness JS is just the one that is generated from Circum. So if when you're compiling the compiling the circuit in Circum, there is several files that is generated by Circum. So the two important things that you will copy into your program is the generate underscore witness.js and the witness underscore calculator.js. So I think for the witness calculator, there wasn't anything that you need to change in particular. Not that I remember I've changed anything here other than enabling the big integer on your browser, because this is not a universal feature that is enabled in your browser. So you have to specifically tells it that, okay, you can use big integer. However, for the generating generate witness.js, I've changed quite a few things. So I have eliminated the use of fs, again, because fs is not a very front-end compatible package. So instead of using read file sync, I'm using a more front-end kind of fetch function to get where my WASM file is. And then the other thing is, of course, I am exporting, I'm returning the witness as a buffer other than as a file. So that's basically how the witness generating process goes. So then once I've generated the witness, so this is where it returned as a buffer. So, and then I check for whether we have the witness. If there is witness, then I'm going to proceed to generating the proof. And I think this is shared by a fellow classmate in the Discord channel. So this is just steps that they have found in the Snark package that actually does the work. So you have to, once you get the proof and the public signals from the proof function, there's actually some processing or edit that's done to the proof and public signals before you can use it to generate the call data. And then you have to process the call data, of course, before it can be used in the contract function. So but that's I know it's a quick demo, but that outlines the kind of the key steps into what goes into making this all work. So I guess the most important things about the snark part is actually to eliminate any part that doesn't work in the front end and replacing it with something that will work. So that includes replacing read file sync with fetch, as well as replacing kind of writing the witness on disk into a buffer. And it will actually work perfectly with the snarkjs function. So originally for this particular function, they asked for a path to the witness binary file, but it's perfectly fine if you just replace it with the buffer itself. It actually works well without any problem. Right, so that's kind of the key steps into going to this.
This is really helpful for me to see. Thank you for doing it.
Thanks. I mean, it's good practice too. Now onto the more difficult stuff, which is semaphore. So their package itself is hard to decode in the first place, and then also to modifying kind of the way they serve it into kind of a front end only thing.
So that maybe leads into a discussion I thought maybe we can have a little bit today, like about the final project. So I think I've seen some of you came to me and talk to me about project ideas, and also some of you actually submitted assignment 3. So I've seen some of your ideas, and I think the general comments, I think there are two. I think the two things that would be useful. One is that if you have an idea, the first thing you should do is just to look around the space and see whether there are existing things that are already similar. And by similar, just think of anything. It doesn't have to be a direct competition, but anything that is, if it's similar enough so you can actually go and steal the code, I mean, borrow. Borrow is more right because it's open, right? It's not stealing. If it's closed, then you have to hack it. That's stealing. If it's open source, then this is the nice thing about open source. You can just borrow. I think you should just look into that. So that already would be great help first in terms of just marketing research. You see what are the other products there, so you're not reinventing the wheel, and also just basically porting other people's code is always better than trying to do it yourself, because is less. I mean, there other people's codes are buggy too, but if you build it from scratch, it might often be worse. So that's one thing. The other is basically try to think of more incremental things, almost like I know that when you do your final project, get very excited and you want to do something really new, but often you don't need to. So that's why I was saying that the semaphore case is a good case. If you actually think of a project, if you have a project that actually is to make semaphore more usable, is already a great project. I mean, I think it's, I mean, you went on in your life to do something even greater, hopefully after the course. But in the context of just a few weeks, if your project is really just to port semaphore to Harmony, because stated problem, currently you can't just copy and paste it. It doesn't work for some reason. It should, but there, these things are not as trivial sometimes. Just troubleshoot that, make it work, maybe break it down or reorganize it, and then potentially embellish or add some functionality or add some better front end. That's a great project. Like, that's the kind of project that actually people are going to use. Unlike if you develop a new game yourself, then other people may not want to play it, right? So often just a slight variation on something is often much more impactful than you might think. If you didn't realize already, if you've used any Web3 products, one thing, the first time I started doing it, I thought that, is this some sort of cyberpunk aesthetics? I mean, all all the swaps have the kind of same forms, right? I mean, all the curve and all these people have this kind of same aesthetics. What's going on? And then quickly you realize, well, because they all port from each other, it's not like they collectively agree this is what looks good. Actually, they all look pretty terrible compared to our Web2 products, which are much more polished. So it's not like the Web3 people don't want that, but it's rather the open source culture is such that the first thing you do is to port something else and try to improve it one at a time. Almost like a scientist, you change an experiment one factor at a time. So if you do that, I think your chance of success will be much better. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, and I think one immediate improvement that could go into semaphore, although it could be a very complicated one, is actually suggested by the author themselves, is to basically relay the transaction. So right, so because to preserve for it to be really anonymous and to maximize how anonymous that is, you can so they basically say that, well, you should use the relayer to pay the gas instead of whoever is broadcasting the message to pay the gas themselves. So that's kind of another thing that is possible as an improvement for semaphore.
Or even Macy. I mean, any existing product that you think are already well known. Those are actually, I mean, I'm not saying that everyone should be doing that. If you really want to do something more original and you're sure you can pull it off, you can. But just don't miss these what you think might be low-hanging fruits, because it's a class project. It's not like your life's project. You don't have to shoot for the moon so often and the stars. And sometimes low-hanging fruits are the guaranteed sweet stuff. And yeah, so especially well-known products that you think other people are already using, an incremental improvement can mean a lot. Especially the space is so young. I mean, all these products are not perfect, right? I mean, there's so much room for improvement by any of them. If there are no more questions, then this is maybe the last practical session. I mean, there will be one more in 2 weeks. That will be probably during the middle of your project, when everyone would be probably struggling a little bit. It will be challenging. I don't want to underestimate. I don't want you to underestimate how much work it will be to launch an actually usable product. It's not easy, even if most of your code is borrowed, just to get it to work, make sure it's nice, and make sure that it has a real chance of having people actually using it. There are a lot of ghost apps on the mainnet, right? That a lot of things that people don't end up using. If you make it nice and actually functioning, and so that's quite a bit of work. So in 2 weeks, I think Boris would come and try to do a session with us, sharing his tips about how to actually launch usable stuff. So Boris is a core developer on Harmony, so he's been building some of the Harmony stuff, and also I think he worked in Honda. He worked in legacy companies and has been an engineer for some time, so he knows a lot of tricks about how to launch things that work. What else? If nothing else, I hope you finish your assignment 3. Even if assignment 3 is actually interesting. A lot of it is just thinking type of questions. It doesn't involve a lot of coding, because I want you guys to start to get ready to really build your final product. And even if you don't do it, hopefully you do it on time. But even if you don't, if you do it by Saturday, then you will be invited to join us for drinks on next Monday, the same time here, and we can get to chit chat and talk more about like careers beyond this course and what else you want to do. There will be a next version of this, a next incarnation, or what's called next cohort of this course, to start right after ETH Denver. So if you actually complete all your assignments and manage to launch a reasonably good prototype before a certain deadline, I think in March, then you would probably be invited to be sponsored to go to ETH Denver. Then you get to meet the Harmony team and probably myself as well. and then we can talk more about career opportunities. But I want to start that process a bit sooner. So as soon as next Monday, we can talk a bit about what I can do for you. Basically, you feel that in this course I haven't been doing most of the heavy lifting and teaching, and Cathie and Hunter, they do most of the work, and then we have a lot of guest lecturers from industry and from universities who are real CK experts. My job basically has been to help organize and coordinate, and I also want to help you guys. If you guys are not already working full-time in Web3 and you're interested in doing it part-time or full-time, I'm here to help. So any more questions? Well, if nothing more, maybe we can save it for next week, shall we?
Sure. Thank you very much for coming.
All right, thank you, Cathie.
And see you on Thursday then.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you on Thursday.